So we just talked about memory colors for skies. Let's talk about memory colors for greens. Different type of greens. We'll talk about those yellow nasty greens, those desaturated yellow greens, and being on the same project, just jumping on the Ikari project. And by the way, if you're not, showing, if it's not showing there, you can just go there and on the timeline view option, press this little button here. If it's not there already, you can just double click the project on the master section. And also on these really vivid greens. So working with greens is pretty similar to working with skies. It's a bit harder just because of their form. When we talk about greens, we also talk about yellows, because you might not know that, but on greens in general, we have lots of yellows. You can see that by this, well, and normally we never, see this kind of crisp greens on our, standard greens. We have these greens that are a lot, are made with lots of yellows. So we're gonna play between that little space, or going on the vector scope with that little space there between yellow and green. I might say that we have more yellow on greens than greens, but no, that's not true. It's that little portion there. So let's make a standard grade for this one, and you know what? I'm gonna go just for this one with curves. Let's bypass the primary wheel, standard color correction. Let's make it with curves. You might be familiar with curves, you might not. And there's my white balance and noise reduction. So let's do it that way. Curves. So let's set our high points and black points there. And by doing this, I'm also bypassing contrast a bit. Or I might say that I want to do this on just one node. Yeah, that's great. Okay, and I also want to have their saturation. It's always better to separate nodes because you want to have everything well organized, and that's the first thing about nodes. But by the way, I'm okay with this. And okay, let's start our method. First of all, I'm gonna call this node greens, and we can work with greens in the same way we work with skies, just by working with layers. Or we can have a different approach, and I'm gonna do that different approach right now. The main, different approach is by using one layer, one selection, and one plugin. And that plugin is called Color Compressor. And by adding this, I'm just, targeting my color. I'm just selecting it, one main color on the green, and by cranking up this, I will be compressing all the colors in my image to that specific color. And that's good if I don't have lots of information in my image and I just want to make everything stand out in the same way. But this is not the best way, in my opinion. The best way is just to go inside my curve and in my U versus saturation, select my greens and just start playing with it. That's the cleanest way to crank up or down greens. And you might want to know that when you select a green, you might have this yellow dot moving too much on the orange side. And you want to know that this line on the vector scope that stands for skin tones, and if you haven't this disabled, just go there and show skin tone indicator, as we talk about. And you want to know that this little line is the equivalent of this part on the hue versus saturation. So you don't want to go there. It's skin tones, part. So on hue versus saturation, we're gonna move a bit our point to the overall most saturated part up, and we're just playing with greens. And with this method, we are just playing with greens, and we can just on the same node playing also with the color of our main greens. So we're gonna take the overall selection of yellows and greens. Maybe we want to erase 1 point, maybe not. Maybe I want to, make them more yellowish or orangey. Maybe I want to make them more vivid, more crisp vivid. And that's our great team match, working with hue versus hue and hue versus saturation. You can also work with hue versus luminance if you want to increase or decrease the luminance of your greens. So again, set that point. Look at that. You can already see that on the luminance level we have lots of information on the yellows that stand there. So even with the luminance, we can go down if we want to create a really deep motif to our greens. But yeah, that's the first magic combo, and you have just, moved few lines on the curves before and after. That's the first method. The second method is just, disabling this. It's just like the skies. We want to create a layer, and we want to, create a main, tone for a green from the gain, because again, even the green, stands on this portion of the image. We can read that by going there on the heights and on the mids. And we want to crank some greens there, and we can make our selection on this layer as we've done before. And by the way, you can move on the same way we did for the skies. It's a bit tricky there because greens are more tedious. We have more information on the greens that you might know. And yeah, we can try also with the RGB, or even better, let's say with a 3D. We're going just to take it this colors there. Yeah, even better. We can focus just on these leaves. By the way, this is not our super accurate image. It's an image from the GH5, but it's not that good as a raw clip from the C200. Might want some yellows. Let's pick some orange yellows there and start clean. Let's make it fast and just to understand it. Just a bit, lower radius and invert it, and that's the exact same thing. Want to denoise it a bit. Same methodology, but in my opinion it worked best with the first way, just playing with the greens. Here you're gonna be more accurate. You don't have to key anything, you just have to focus on the curves. And let's just do the same thing on this one from the timeline 1. Oh, there, timeline 1. I want to move it there, by the way. Let's make again another little change with the curves. I want to bypass wheels just for this time, but by the way, if you want to know my opinion, working with wheels, it's always better. Okay, let's add some contrast and some pivot there, saturation. There you go. So same thing, gonna add another layer. I'm gonna do it there too. So again, noise reduction. Just stick with this and stick with me, guys, because white balance. Learning to do that all the time will be your lifesaver. It'll be like being super organized. This clip, same method, going on curved. If you're not, sure, 100% sure on where, your green sits, just watch this, this curve and this line on the background. You can see all the information from the background there and all the information from your yellowy greens there. And by the way, it's possible just by cranking up and down the saturation. Let's set it to 0 and let's watch this. No information. But let's set to 50, or as we were, 90, super colored. There we go. So U versus saturation and U versus U, two main things that you want to play with. U versus U is the first one, so just click there. Boom, we have the selection. Select the right U. Maybe you want to turn it more on a greeny side, just a bit. And we can also change saturation a bit. Look at that. We already changed it a bit, but maybe on, images like this one, this might work, but it might work better with the selector. So as we did before. So let's call it green curves. And let's do another node and call it green background. And this one will be our layer. So on our background, I want not to crank everything on this greenish direction, even on the gamma. Concentrate it a bit. Exaggerate it. And then I want to use that color compressor. Everything works in the exact same way, guys. You just have to know it. You just have to play it right and play it cool. Maybe let's target another color. Maybe a greener green, like there. And then we want to set it to our right color. So maybe something like this. And then let's key that out from layer. So let's select this on the opposite way. And another thing that we're gonna see now is also how we can use masks with this selection. I use a lot of masks with selection of skies and greens, because sometimes you can, like in this specific case, you can take something that you don't want. And as you know, as they did back in the days with film cameras, they put gradients just to, take few parts of the frames with the ND filters or other type of filters. So I want to focus in there. You know what? I think I'm doing something wrong on that layer. I gotta do that on the same layer. Yeah, that's correct. And we want to select just that area and not, have an Incredible Hulk guy here. So stick with this. Now let's try again with a 3D, by the way. It will work better for sure. We can even deselect some colors from his face. By the way, we're seeing how the curve method is more efficient even in that way. But you want to try, you want to, you know, try to solve problems on both ways. But it's always better, you know, playing with curves. I like it the most. And right now I'm gonna make a gradient mask. Not like this, but a gradient there. From there, going down. It's not that much efficient, as you can see, but it works too. You can make another gradient there for the other selection here. Like you can have it on that way too, being really soft, being, you know, from a further place there and being soft with the mask. And there's another way, but for sure the best one is playing with curves. But by the way, color compressor help you, you know, enhancing that color. You can use it when you have lots of, you know, dirt greens, or when you don't like that type of green. You can just take the overall color and say, okay, let's compress this to a unique color. I can make it yellowy, I can make it orangey, I can make red. You can move it how you want. But the key point of this is taking your selection and compress all that data colors to a specific, you know, and unique color. But yeah, by the way, these are my two methods for greens. The first one is the most efficient one, the one with the curve, where you can obviously, you know, keep your node tree really clean, and you can just pump up those green that much, and also changing their value on the hue or on the saturation. And the other one with the key, well, efficient. Sometimes you just have to lose lots of time with the selection, because that's the big part with the qualifier. But yeah, it's another, you know, method. You can do that too. You can match even keys. Even there, I have some greens there. I can also, you know, track the street, because I'm saying like, I have all those tree greens. I don't like it. I might do something like this and then invert it, and then I can track it forward, backward. So these are my main ways to work with greens. Just stick with those two and use your favorite one for your appropriate scene.